Richat Atlantis. In the here presented broader Atlantis hypothesis, that also includes Mu, and in an even more broad, global, Atlantis or advanced civilization vision, the Richat structure in Mauritania, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, as well as many other mentioned advanced civilization candidates, fit quite well. While the Richat structure is a geologically fascinating natural formation, it doesn't align with the descriptions of Atlantis given by Plato in his writings, nor presents an expected continental scale, nor proximity to an ocean, sea, or important well-navigable river, nor is there any archaeological evidence to support it as a city, let alone as a continent. Nevertheless, in the here hypothesized and presented broader or even Global Atlantis hypothesis, Richat fits quite well in such a Global Atlantis, this for a number of reasons. However, we explain these reasons, as well as the other items in the list in other origin for existence videos. Point A. Richat and the region present Y-DNA haplogroup Q. YHPQ presents some limited presence, especially in North Africa. Ethnic Berbers in Mauritania are believed to number almost 3 million individuals. We remember their interactions with the Phoenicians' Y-DNA haplogroup J, and the fact that the Berbers' Y-DNA haplogroups, and certain aspects of their lifestyles, are similar and related to ancient Americans and American Y-DNA and also mtDNA. Point B. The heat map, a kind of haplogroup frequency map of the quite globally spread mtDNA haplogroup M, includes the region of Richat, Africa. Point C. The Y-DNA haplogroup C, with root in the Americas, is related to the dominant African haplogroup E, which is not African, because it descends from Y-DNA DE, which is not African since it descends from Y-DNA CT, this while Y-DNA C has its first roots in the Americas. Point D. The Atlantic Gyres kind of throw floating objects into the west coast of Africa, this at least at 2 points on the African west coasts. Both these points and landing places lead up to the Richat region. See the Y-DNA-R frequency map of the world. Point E. Y-DNA-R has its roots in the Americas, and we claim that the spread of Y-DNA-R in Africa is at least somehow related to the Americas and Atlantis, and also points out the importance of the region in relation to the Americas and Atlantis. Point F. Presence and frequencies of blood group O next in frequency to the Americas, but also spatially neighboring, this not only since Pangaea, but more recent and more recently because of the quickly and efficiently connecting Atlantic Gyres. Point G. Plato mentions that Atlantis is much bigger than Libya and Asia. While we admit he most probably excludes, he does not do that, and so he could mean it is part of as well. Further, he mentions it in the same context and loosely temporarily associates them. Plato only could mention and describe so much in detail if Atlantis had not been a very deep past event. The flood. In our opinion, the flood is nothing else than the rising of ocean levels with roughly 120 meters up to 5,000 BP. Which flooded many of the most fertile lands and strategic ports of the world, as well as large parts of the very densely populated Amazon forest, which includes important deltas like Maranhão, and in fact also much of the Amazon riverbanks, all of them with significant man-made mound-building urbanizations. We claim that there is no evidence of any other more acute and or more local flood or floods, like for instance in relation to the Fertile Crescent, that would come close in capacity to the flood related to the rising of ocean levels, this with a whopping roughly 120 meters. There is no evidence at all that the flood of Gilgamesh, Noah, Atlantis, and of many native tribes' cultures, was not the well-known and proven rising of ocean levels with a whopping roughly 120 meters. The mound building almost for sure is a strategy that allows the peoples to stay longer, or with more security in the highly fertile and productive deltas, obviously with more and or sufficient security against rising tides. Related to oceans, seas, and rivers. There was mound building as well as dolmen building across the world, even so in Doggerland, and these are still in place today in Scotland, Drenthe, Netherlands. Megaliths and honeybeds, Ardennes, Belgium. Also megaliths and honeybeds, etc., but also in Colombia and other places across the world, including Russia, which on its own presents the staggering amount of 3,000 dolmen, this ranging from Europe to the far east of Eurasia. Also including Siberia, Ural, France, Korea, Japan, Colombia, Sulawesi. Certain places insist on having their own distinct megaliths. Honeybeds, which translates to Huns graves, are megalithic burial monuments, nevertheless supposedly distinct from megaliths in France and the rest of the world, and supposedly not typically found in France. They are considered primarily an emblem of the province of Drenthe in the Netherlands. These structures, made of large stones, are assumed to be built by the Funnelbeaker culture approximately 5,000 years ago. Despite this by archaeologists' supposed distinctness, it is obvious that these large stones are megaliths, and in our opinion the structures clearly are or include or at worst are similar to dolmens, and also had similar functions as dolmens, and other megalithic structures in other parts of the world. The insistence on such supposed distinctions are regrettable, and make us blind to see relations and connections and come to a conclusion of some global advanced civilization, this despite the clear also genetic similarities, including root, origin, and eventual cradles. As said, while France supposedly does have its own megalithic sites and dolmens, they are distinct from the honeybeds of Drenthe, Netherlands and other countries further to the north. While both honeybeds or Huns graves in the Netherlands and dolmens in France and elsewhere are types of megalithic tombs, archaeologists insist they supposedly have key differences. We claim that first and above all distinctions, especially in the context of this Origin for Existence video and our attempts to uncover and to recognize a global and interconnected advanced culture, they have key similarities, which clearly confirm the global characters of these structures. Whoever wants to go in detail is free and encouraged to point out supposed key distinctions, but this only after focusing on key similarities. Honeybeds supposedly are distinctive for their long, chambered structures that are often associated with the Funnelbeaker culture and their typical positioning on the Hondsrug ridge. Dolmens, on the other hand, are generally single-chamber tombs with two or more upright stones supporting a capstone, and are found in various locations throughout Europe.